Right. Good evening. Today we are going to start with the project risk management. That is the third last knowledge area. After this, we will have to cover procurement and stakeholder, and that's all. And I hope it will just take one or two more lectures, and it will be over. Yes, Asad, what do you want to say? Okay. Uh, Asad, I will give you a link. You can access them from the YouTube. Just hold on a minute. I will just immediately copy that link to you. So this is the link. This is the complete playlist for the PMP course which is being conducted for you. And all the 23 lectures and are right now there. And remaining 2-3 lectures, whatever to do, including today, I will be adding that to the list also. But you can access everything, all the videos, right from the beginning, all there on the YouTube. Right, coming back. Just let me fix this. I think you cannot see the screen. Right, do let me know if you can see the screen now. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir, it's visible now.
Okay, okay. I'm sorry for this delay. There is something wrong with the computer. Maybe it is overloaded or what. Anyways, so today we are talking about the project risk management, and project risk management naturally like quality and communication. This is not only meant for project management. Risk management is by itself a complete subject, and we do have risk management in operations also. But risk management is more famous for the financial risk. Here we are not really much concerned about the financial risk, although all the risks which occur, they ultimately impact the finances. But anyways, from the project point of view, we are going to be talking about all the risks to the project. So project risk management includes the processes concerned with conducting the risk management planning, identification of risks, thorough analysis of risks, creating the responses for each of those risks, and ultimately monitoring and controlling them on the project. Most of these processes are updated throughout the project. You will have to keep identifying new risks all the time So therefore, you need to have a risk management plan in the beginning, which you will be ultimately following, and based on that, you will identify, analyze, and respond to various kinds of risks. Uh, and this exercise, as it says, is repetitive in nature, and as you will progressively elaborate in the life of the project, throughout the life of the project, you will keep identifying new risks. Objective of project risk management are to increase the probability and impact of positive events and decrease the probability and impact of events adverse to the project. Now, this is very interesting to note that we generally associate negativity to risk management. We generally think that risks are bad, risks are negative. Basically, risks are not good or bad. They are not positive or negative. The risks, uh, basically, risk is an event which has a probability of happening. Unlike facts, which do not have probability but they are sure to happen, rather we can say they are 100% probable to happen. So anything which you are sure is not a risk. Anything which can happen, which has a chance of happening, is a risk. Now, this does not say that the event which is likely to happen is going to be a bad event or a good event. So risks could be positive or risks could be negative. Both kinds of events could be there. So considering risks to be always bad or negative is wrong, because risks could be positive or risks could be negative. So if it is a negative risk, we usually call it a threat. If it is a positive risk, we call it an opportunity. So if there is a threat of something happening, so we will not like to have that kind of threat. So we will try our level best to reduce the likelihood of that bad event happening, or to reduce the impact of that bad event. But if it is an opportunity, I would definitely like that opportunity to turn my way and benefit me. Therefore, I will try to increase the probability of a positive event, and the impact of that event must be enhanced. So you see there are two things. One is the probability, is the likelihood of a good or bad event to happen, and then the impact it causes on the project, that both of these factors can be manipulated, can be doctored, and we can create our responses accordingly. The process in project risk management, according to 5th edition, there are 6 processes. Out of the 6 processes, 5 processes are in planning. And in planning, like every other knowledge area, the first step or the first process is to plan risk management. Now, plan risk management, like all other management plans, will provide us a guideline, the principles, the methods, the procedures, the tools, and techniques to be used in all of the subsequent processes, like how to identify the risk, how to perform various kinds of analysis, which tools are allowable and how they can be used, how the responses can be created, and how these risks can be controlled. This all instruction is included in the planned risk management. Once we have the risk management plan created, then is the time that we specifically go after identifying various kinds of risks. That means that when we were creating the risk management plan, that does not mean that we knew the risks at that point in time, or we have already analyzed them, or we have prepared the responses. We did nothing like that. We just created the rules for doing all that. So now, when we are identifying the risks, this is the first time we are physically identifying all the risks. And from where are we going to identify these risks? We will have to get in communication with all the stakeholders. We will have to look at the historical data and the circumstances and environment and see what all can impact the risk, impact the project. So all such happenings which have a likelihood of happening, whether they are positive or negative, they will be identified as risks, and we will prepare a risk register, a list of all the risks. Naturally, it is not possible to identify each and every risk. Naturally, there is a limitation to our power of thinking, to our analytical skills. So we can only see as much as is possible within the current environment and situation. So whatever we can think, we can list down all those risks, and these risks which we can find, which we can list, are called known or known unknown risks. Known that we know that this thing can happen, and we have a fairly good idea how much would be the probability and impact of that risk. Known unknown, which we partially know that this thing can happen, but we are not really sure about the impact of that risk. And there is a third kind of risk, which is called unknown, and these are those risks which we can't identify, we can't think about at this stage in time, so we don't know what will happen when they occur. So there is no possibility that you can identify an unknown, or you can say all those risks which could not be identified are unknown unknowns, but they still are risks and they can occur at any time in the project life cycle. And if they occur, we will have to suffer. We will have to, if they are negative risks, we will have to suffer for them. But at the same time, this is not the only time we are identifying the risks. As we move ahead in the life of the project, we get more educated, we learn more things start happening, activities start happening in our project. We go into the execution of the project, and as we move ahead in the life of the project, we keep learning more things. We keep progressively elaborating, and thus new risks can be identified throughout. So unknown unknowns, which were initially unknown unknowns, can become known knowns over the period of time. But that does not preclude the option that certain risks will always remain unknown. You will never be able to explore or understand, and they will hit you at some stage in the project life cycle. So that means that we will try our level best, and we will repetitively keep doing the identification of the risks and keep compiling them into a register which is called a risk register. Next process, next other two processes are responsible for the analysis of these identified risks. Now in analysis, we have first analysis as a qualitative risk analysis, and the second analysis is the quantitative risk analysis. I hope you understand what is the difference between qualitative and quantitative. Qualitative is which cannot be computed and which can just be, you can guess its value by some quality of that risk. So we can approximate only how much harm this risk can cause, and that could be from the data you have collected. But quantitative risk analysis is going into the numbers, calculating exactly the value of amount or money it will cause damage to us. So all the risks we have identified, there could be a very long list of risks. If we start calculating every risk with quantitative analysis, that will take so much time, and even project life cycle will be less for that purpose, because there may be 10 risks in every activity. And if we have got 1,000 activities, there might be as much as 10,000 risks. The time we spend in calculating each activity, this is going to be much more greater time for calculating the risks. So the duration of time which could be spent in quantitative analysis of every risk would be enormous. And therefore, we do not want to spend so much time on the analysis of these risks. So how can we do it? So what we do is, first we go through a qualitative analysis. We do not quantitatively analyze each risk in detail, but we look at the general qualities of the risk and try to weigh the risks in accordance with others and see which are the biggest of them all. Somehow we have to create a mechanism in qualitative risk analysis to sort out big risks from the small risks. And we will take along only large enough risk which concerns us. And only those risks will be analyzed in quantitative risk analysis. With each of these steps, after the qualitative analysis, the risk register will be updated with the data of qualitative analysis. And later, when we do the quantitative analysis, the risk register will be further updated to represent the data of the quantitative risk analysis. Now, after having quantitative risk analysis, we will have a fair picture which are the biggest risks and how much damage these big risks are going to cause me. Now I have to get prepared to respond to these risks. What should be my actions if this risk occurs? Or what should be my actions to reduce the impact of this risk or to reduce the probability of this risk? So for that purpose, we prepare the risk responses only for selected risks. We don't waste time on all the risks, but only the selected risks we prepare the response. And ultimately, in control risk, when the project is being executed, we keep a watch during control on what is happening. We will have indications when a specific risk is about to happen. So when that risk is likely to happen, is about to happen, we will take necessary actions as recorded in the risk response plan. And when we are taking actions on those risks and when the project is happening, we will also be identifying new risks. We will be qualitative and doing the qualitative and quantitative analysis for new risks and preparing the risk responses. So this thing will go on till the project ends. So we will always keep identifying new risks, analyzing them and controlling them ultimately. So this is the brief description of each one of these processes. Risk management is planned risk management is a process of defining how to conduct risk management activities in the project. Identify risks is the process of determining which risks may affect the project and document their characteristics. Qualitative risk analysis is the process of prioritizing the risks for further analysis or by assessing and combining their probability of occurrence and impact. In quantitative risk analysis, we process the numerically analyzing the effect of identified risks on overall project objectives. And in risk responses, we develop options and actions to enhance opportunities to reduce threats to the project objectives. Control risk is the process of implementing risk response plans, track identified risks, monitoring residual risks, identifying new risks, and evaluating risk process effectiveness throughout the project. Now, do you have some idea now what I'm talking about? Yes, please. Are you comfortable with what I've said?
Can you hear me, sir? Yes, yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, okay. Now we have to talk about, even before I can move ahead, I want to introduce three terms to you: risk appetite, risk tolerance, and risk threshold. Now these are the three terms which are specific to risk, but they are normally misunderstood and they are used interchangeably. People do not understand what they are talking about, but where they are talking about the appetite, they are saying it is tolerance. Where they are talking about tolerance, they are saying it is threshold. So let us be clear what the appetite, tolerance, and the threshold really means. What do you mean by appetite?
Sir, deficiency of something.
Appetite is deficiency of something. Asad,
I mean, in broader aspect, usually it's the deficiency of, I would say, it's hunger basically, but
yeah.
I don't know how to.
Uh, deficiency is not a very good word for that. Uh, Hunger is more appropriate for that. But how much can you easily consume? How much can you easily consume is your appetite. You know, how much can you eat comfortably? That is your appetite. But when you are eating too much, that is not your appetite. That is beyond your appetite. Then you are, if you are eating more than what you can, what you are doing is you are testing the limits. You are tolerating more food, and there will be ultimately a threshold beyond which you cannot eat at all. Do you get this point? Appetite is,
Yes, yes.
okay, from risk perspective, appetite is the amount of risk which I can take comfortably without, with a smiling face, without any problem. That does not bother me at all. That much risk is my appetite. Then comes the tolerance. The risk which I can take with difficulty. I already know that this is not within my appetite and I'm not really happy about it, but these risks I am ready to tolerate, meaning what? With pain, with the difficulty, you are still able to tolerate that. And there is a limit beyond which you cannot tolerate a risk and you must take some action. That is your threshold. And threshold could be either on the positive side or on the negative side. जी असद, कुछ समझ आ रही है? Okay. So the book definition of this is risk appetite, which is the degree of uncertainty or an entity is willing to take or in anticipation of a reward. Like, a mosquito is continuously bothering me and I keep waving him away, but that is okay with me. I'll keep doing my job and a little risk from the mosquito. What can it do? At most it will bite me. What else? So this is within my appetite. That is not a problem. Then there are so many mosquitoes that they are biting me continuously and they are not making it comfortable for me. So they are testing my tolerance. They are testing my limit. So risk tolerance is, which is the degree, amount or volume of risk that an organization or an individual can withstand. And when You cannot withstand that limit is called your threshold. Risk threshold, which refers to measures along the level of uncertainty or the level of impact at which the stakeholder may have a specific interest. Below that risk threshold, the organization will accept the risk. Above that threshold, organization will not tolerate the risk. So, if something crosses your threshold, then it is mandatory that you must take some action. You must take some action. But we will accept the risk which is within our appetite. That is normal. And even within my tolerance is also acceptable, though it is with a little difficulty or pain. But yes, I am ready to bear that much pain. But I cannot bear pain beyond that. Therefore, I will then take certain action if a thing crosses my risk threshold. So these were the three basic concepts, and if they are at the back of your mind, you would know what really tantamounts to a risk. These are the 6 processes of risk management, and we will take them one by one. First of all, plan risk management. Plan risk management, as we understand, is a process of defining how to conduct project risk management activities for a project. The key benefit of this process is to ensure that the degree, type, and visibility of risk management are commensurate with both the risks and the importance of the project to the organization. Risk management plan is vital to communicate with and obtain agreement and support from all stakeholders to ensure the risk management process is supported and performed effectively over the project lifecycle. Now, you see, when I'm establishing the risk management plan, that is the time when the risk appetite, risk tolerance, and risk thresholds will be defined. So these limits will be defined in the risk management plan, and when the risks are identified, they will be identified in accordance with those limits. Anything which is within my appetite, I will not recognize it as a risk at all. Anything which is in my tolerance, I will recognize that as a risk, but I will accept it. I will say no further action is required. This much risk I can take. This much pain I can bear. So I will not take any action because there is no fun in spending money for such a small thing. And then comes anything which is beyond your tolerance that requires a certain action to be taken, some response to be created for such like risks. Okay, so what are the inputs to developing the risk management plan? Naturally, we will have the project management plan, project charter, stakeholder register because we have to communicate with the stakeholders regarding risk, enterprise environmental factor and process assets. So these things are our inputs, and we will use, because we have to do a lot of analysis, analytical skills or analytical techniques are required, because those analytical tools and techniques will be selected here in the risk management plan. Risk management plan will allow you certain tools and techniques which will further be used when you are doing the analysis. So some knowledge of those analytical tools and techniques should be there with at the time of the planning the risk management. Then expert judgment and meetings. They are these two tools we are well aware of, and ultimately we want to develop a risk management plan. Now you can see the risk management plan when created, it will give the output of this risk management plan will go to all the subsequent processes as if they can follow it religiously. Identify risk will follow the risk management plan for the purposes of identifying the risk. Qualitative, quantitative, and risk response plan all will follow the instructions given in the risk management plan. Therefore, all of these processes require the risk management plan. What should be included in a risk management plan? Generally, your risk management methodology is defined there. You define your approach, you define your appetite, your tolerance, your threshold, your methods, your tools, your techniques, your data sources. All these things have to be defined, and you have to come up with a methodology how you will address the risk management process. Then you have to assign roles and responsibilities relative to the risk management. There are certain roles and responsibilities for risk management. Like you see, there has to be a risk owner for every risk. There has to be some people responsible for taking action in case a risk occurs. So all these roles and responsibilities are to be explicitly defined. You must also define your limit. How much can you spend on risk management? What is your budget limitation for dealing with these contingencies? Timing of the risk. It describes how often the risk management process will be performed throughout the project lifecycle. We understand that when we are planning at that stage, we did all that. We identified the risk, we qualified, quantified, and developed the responses for the risk. But I told you that throughout the life of the project, this will iterate. This all of this process will happen again and again. How often this will happen? Is it going to be on weekly basis, on monthly basis, or whatever? So you have to decide beforehand the cycle after which this is going to be repeated. So what will be the frequency of doing these risk management processes? Scoring and interpretation. These are the methods used for performing qualitative and quantitative risk analysis. How you will calculate, how will you prioritize, how will you compute the value of each and every risk, what method you will be using there. You also have to define your thresholds, the target against which the project team measures the effectiveness of your risk response plan. With this, there will be some risk-related reporting. So those reporting formats must be defined. How the results of the risk management process will be documented, analyzed, and communicated to the project team and the stakeholders. And lastly, you must mention how the documents are all the facets of the risk activities and how the risk process will be audited. This is the tracking. These are just only few of the headings. This is not the format. This is not the template. But what PMI wants is that these points must be considered when you are creating the risk management plan, and at least these headings should be addressed in the risk management plan. So these are some more methodology, roles and responsibilities, budgeting, timing, risk categories. What types of risks are there? How do you categorize those risks? So making the use of statistics, you can use either a beta distribution or a triangular distribution. Triangular distribution is used when the data set is small. When you have got a lot of input, then you can use the beta distribution like you use in 3-point estimate. PERT we studied, 3-point estimate, pessimist, optimist, and the most likely. 4 times the weightage. But if there are only 3-4 people who have given you the input, then you can take straight away average value out of those. Then you can't do the beta distribution. Just give me 2 minutes. Hold on, please. Right. Let me explain this impact scales to you. They will actually be used in the qualitative risk analysis. But what we do is we understand that from the project perspective, we have got scope, time, and cost as our major project objectives. So we can also count quality in it. These are the 4 items. If these 4 items are impacted by the risk, the project will suffer. So we see the impact of the risk on each one of these items, and we create a imaginary scale how much impact that risk is causing on each one of these areas. If you look at the cost, or you just see we have created a Likert scale of 1 to 5. What is a Likert scale? When you do not have a measure or metric to measure something, you create a false measure, an approximate measure. And that could be, as I might have given you an example, if I want to say, see how happy you are, uh, none of your answers would really satisfy me, because everybody is conceiving my question in their own way. And if you say you are very happy, another person who is saying he is not that very happy, you actually could be at the same level of happiness, but your expression is different. So if I can create a false scale, a Likert scale of say 1 to 5, and I ask you, then you will tell me that I am at level 4. So that's exactly how we want to assess our project objective, how the risks are impacting it. So let us say there is one very low impact, moderate impact, high impact, and a very high impact. Now, you can create this scale. This table is not exactly something that you must be using as it is given here. You can create your own scale from your project requirement. So, let us say if there is an insignificant cost increase in your project, we will say it has a very low impact. If the cost increase is less than 10%, we will say it is a low impact. If cost increase is between 10 to 20%, we can call it a moderate impact. 20 to 40 is a high impact, and anything more than 40 is a very high impact. I am again telling you, these figures are not definite. This is just an example provided for you, and you can use it as it is, or you can create your own scale. Similarly, for time, the risk has insignificant time increase, so very low impact. Low impact could be less than 5% time increase, 5 to 10% time increase, 10 to 20, more than 20. So the same scale of very low, low, moderate, high, and very high. Similarly, scope decrease barely noticeable. That is a very low thing. Minor areas of scope affected, that is a low. Major areas of scope affected, moderate. Scope reduction unacceptable to sponsor, that is high. And project end, it is effective useless. So if it is completely, it is rendering the project useless, then it will be a very high impact. From quality point of view, quality degradation is barely noticeable. It's very low impact. Only very demanding applications are affected, then it is a low impact. Quality reduction requires sponsor approval, that is a moderate impact. Quality reduction unacceptable to sponsor is a high impact, and project item is effectively useless, that is a very high impact. So this is how you can measure something which otherwise cannot be measured. And then you can also decide that the risk you are discussing, what is more important to you? in this project. Maybe it differs from project to project. It it will differ. Maybe in one project time is of more importance for you and cost is of less importance. In another project cost is of more importance. So what you can do is whatever is the result of these impacts, or howsoever you have marked them, you can also give a weightage to each one of these areas. Let me say you have marked that your whatever risk we are considering has a moderate effect on your project, and but as far as the time is concerned, it has insignificant time increase. The scope will have minor areas of scope affected, but quality will be impacted at a moderate level. Now, apparently, if they all are standing equal, scope, time, cost, and quality, if they're all equal, I will take an average of this. So I have got 3, 1, 2, 3. So if I can take a simple average, if data is very small, we normally take a very simple average. That will be 3 plus 3. You understand what I'm saying? 3. 3 I'm saying moderate. 1 I am saying very low, 2 I am saying minor areas. So this is 3, 1, 2, 3. Or you can use these scales which are written here, 0.05, 0.1, 0.1, 0.2, 0.4 and more than 0.8. Anyways, you can use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are these scales. Actually these scales mean 5 stands for 5%, 1 stands for 10%, 20%, 40%, 80%. So whomsoever, maybe in this case, if we say it is 0.2 plus 0.05